welcome back to another Medicinal Mass media production. Tonight we have a debate between myself and a friend of mine known as Kiwi on the Tartaria server. Today's debate is about Noah's Ark and its existence on Mount Ararat or Darupanar. It's the one that Ron Wyatt found. So we go through some of his findings and some of mine, and enjoy.
Noah and the biblical flood. Did he cause it? No. Did he actually build an ark that survived to this day? The story goes that he was a dope ass carpenter. Built the boat in like 3 days. Somehow got all the animals to get here in 2 days, and made enough food for them in 1 day. And it also says in the scripture that we have it landing on Mount Ararat, which would be this mountain here. And then there's another one down here where it's a possibility that it could have landed. But we're talking about this one. It's Mount Darupanar. It's in Turkey. Wow. Seen it yet? How about here? How about here? What about this? Or is this it? Right here, is this the shape of Noah's Ark that we're looking at? Or is it this shape? I don't know. It's hard to tell. This shape. Here's a different angle looking down on it. Right here. Or is it here? Or is it up here? This is the ground radar that they used to show the definition of the shape of a boat. And, this would be really, really convincing to me if they'd have gone anywhere else. Because, like, if I only used ground penetrating radar in the shape of a boat, you know what I'm going to get? The shape of a boat. So here's a petrified piece of wood that was found from supposedly one of the timbers. So he says he had it analyzed for carbon, all this and that. One of the interesting things is there are no growth rings inside of this petrified piece of wood. And that's because for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, but there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. So the explanation is no wood before the flood ever had growth rings. Now, this would be evidence if you could actually show. I mean, there is actually a certain kinds of evergreens, I think, or I'll have to look for that, that don't necessarily have growth rings, but to say no wood has growth rings is kind of ridiculous. This is what petrified wood looks like. This is real, bona fide, crystallized, siliconized, petrified wood. And it's exposed to the elements 24/7, has been for hundreds of thousands of years after it became uplifted and eroded away from the riverbed it had been in. So when you're testing for carbon inside a petrified wood or in what you think is petrified wood, and it comes back with carbon, and you're digging in topsoil, there's a good reason for that. It's because scientists say that more carbon resides in soil than in the atmosphere in all plant life combined. There are 2,500 billion tons of carbon in soil compared with 800 billions of tons in the atmosphere, and 560 billion tons in plant and animal life. This is an interesting artifact Ron declares he discovered. And he says he found this on the walk up to the Ark. Now, a lot of the evidence I'm sure Kiwi's going to put forth is at the Ark. at the site of the actual Ark location, but he never exactly shows on a map where he actually found these. He just says walking up to it. Now, that could literally mean anywhere. How do I know this even came from the Ark? But that's besides the point. In this piece of rivet metal, I guess, it's got a coating of cemented magnetite grains that are altered partly to limonite. So you can see there's little white plagioclase crystals right here and here. Oh fuck! I was gonna put the manganese nodules in there. Forgot to add that to the slide. But there's this ballast rock he said fell out of the bottom of the boat, and he had it analyzed, and it came back with a bunch of different chemicals in it and elements. And they say, well, you can find these on the bottom of the ocean, but we didn't test at the bottom of the ocean. We tested at the site of the Ark. Well, you know what? These nodes get deposited along the floor of the ocean. And then as time goes on, you'll see in this diagram how something sedimented in the bottom of the seafloor will start to uplift over time. And then you can imagine this is not a mountain you're looking at. This is a much smaller structure. But look at that bendy rock. Look at how it's all folded over. So you can imagine that over time, as that rock is being bent and uplifted, you're going to see things that were at the bottom near the top. So, Ron Wyatt's Ark. What don't you get? Floor is yours.
that was pretty funny, dude.
I'm dying.
That's pretty
That
good.
was
That's
awesome.
pretty good.
Dude, that was pretty good. Man.
That's pretty good,
Photoshop.
man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Dude, Demonstryde, you're awesome, and thank you so very much for that. I really appreciate you.
Dude, also your camera on in the corner like a professional streamer to all three of our viewers. That was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, big shows. It was no, honestly, dude, it was a nice touch. I was like, oh shoot, I see him. That's fantastic.
Yeah, right. He really is that cartoon in his photo.
Right?
PFP.
Right? Isn't that so cool? That makes it cooler. That's why I like him. But now Kiwi has to go on camera too.
Bruh.
Oh, you don't even have
Only
your laptop.
from the top up.
Honestly, guys, I'm not even joking. I had to disconnect my camera because my laptop's gonna die if it runs out. I just started looking for a new machine and shit. No, honestly, it's I'll probably crash my
Excuses.
I don't
Listen.
believe you're real. I think you're an AI.
Yep, he's an AI, all right.
That shit, you guys crazy? I'm messing. I never shy away from a challenge.
Oh, see.
What's up? See, it's gonna. Oh my, it's dying.
Oh.
Guys, welcome to another presentation by yours truly, King's Clown Kiwi, about Noah's Ark Path of Travel. Demonstryde, thank you so very much for your presentation. Greatly appreciated. We are here on the 24/7 Cosmology Tartaria Discord. Genesis 7:20 through 24 states, 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle, and of beast, and of every creeping thing that. Now we have Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the highest mountain. I researched, there's a mountain range that appears to be measured from like under the sea level, and has apparently a greater overall elevation. But Mount Everest is the greatest elevation mountain top above sea level. So doing the mathematics on it and just looking at the Egyptian breakdown of what a cubit is measured from the elbow to the fingertip. There as well, it also has a measurement of what a palm. These are measurements that were used. They also use a measurement of a finger. One of the perversions that existed prior to the discovery of Ron Wyatt's Noah's Ark was the Hebrew cubit. So Hebrew, in Genesis, it stated that the Noah should build the ark 300 cubits in length. The Hebrew cubit is 18 inches. That would result in an overall length of 450 feet. Unfortunately, it was the Egyptian cubit. Moses was raised by Egyptians. He was raised in the time of Egyptians. The royal Egyptian cubit itself is 20.6 inches. That extrapolates to an overall length of 515 feet. 5 plus 1 plus 5 equals 11. Just figured I'd throw that in for fun. But yeah, so you've got an overall elevation height of Mount Everest, 8,849 meters, 29,000 feet. 1 cubit equaling 1.7 feet, 15 cubits at 1.7 per equals 25.75 feet. Overall sea level would be, or overall risen water level would have been 29,057.75 feet above sea level was the flood baseline based on Genesis 7:20. Genesis 8:4, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. Go to this map, we locate Ararat, we locate Turkey. Mount Ararat is on the right-hand side. You'll see Europe, then you'll see Georgia, then you'll see Yerevan, and then Mount Ararat. Turkey is published in the middle of the map itself. You can also see Cyprus, the Euphrates, other features. And the other thing I wanted to actually take an opportunity to note is the location of Ararat. I didn't, unfortunately, pinpoint the exact distance that this site was located, but it is quite a way in from any coastal locations. This is, in fact, as shown by Demonstryde in his presentation, the site of the ark itself. From tip to tip, 300 cubits in length, 515 feet indeed. You can see that there are linear, or should I say, sorry, vertical exposed ribs almost. Those would be the extruded ribs of the hull of the ship itself, or the ark, if you will. Genesis 6:15 states, and this is the fashion which thou shalt make it of. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, the breadth of it 50 cubits, and the height of it 30 cubits. As I said, from tip to tip, 300 cubits in length, 515 feet. This is I apologize for the distorted images, but based on when the ark itself came to settle at the height, it was carried down by a volcano. A volcano had erupted and basically had carried down. There's further presentations on it, or sorry, further pictures of it later on in the presentation. But it began to basically wrap the wood in lava. Now, again, when you have magma from beneath the Earth's core, it's liquid. When it oxygenates, it hits it comes to the surface, it oxygenates, it becomes lava. And as we've heard and seen in other, like the volcano that erupted, let me think now, the Banana Island. Oh my gosh, somebody help me here. Off the coast of Africa, western coast of Africa. In any case, the Canary Islands. The Canary Islands were erupting. The lava, as it was rolling forward, you would hear that crinkling sound because it was in fact solidified. Right. So when you have a heated, solidified object interacting with wood, it doesn't burn it. It helps to fossilize it. Typically, when you have, this is what's fossilization or petrification. Typically, when you have water interacting with wood, water will go into the wood, and through a freeze-thaw cycle, it will basically start to cause the wood to decay and split apart. With the fossilization itself, the lava, it prevented that from happening. The Encyclopedia Britannica states When moisture seeps into the pores of a rock and freezes, it may shatter the rock into tiny fragments of silt or sand size. As this process is repeated year after year, any structure near the surface which would have been exposed to the freezing temperatures would be expected to be fragmented and in the time reduced to fragments, some the size of a grain of sand. You'll see what water can do to plastic, right? It expands and will break it apart if left. This is a, a little drawing, if you will, of the ark being carried down, a little sketch. But basically of the action. So you have the lava coming down, it interacts with the object. There's this rock, which we saw in the pictures. I'll point it out again, which basically pinned the ark itself and held it in place. So here you have, this is Ron Wyatt, pictured in the middle. This is basically where the lava, from my understanding, came down. This is the valley of the area of where the area came to settle. This was some rocks that were found, but there was a carving which was interesting that was found in these rocks. Now, the carving itself on the right-hand side shows 8 people, 1, 2, and you count them out. So this would be Noah, his wife, and their 6 children. These were the pictures of the 2 doves that were sent out, and this was the landscape that they were observing. This itself, I don't know, I am so sorry, guys. Can you see my cursor?
Negative.
All right, so there's a peak in the middle that appears to be, it has a bit of a frosting on it. That would be the volcano that erupted after the ark landed. So this is again a picture, an elevation picture on top, the carving that was found in those rocks that I showed earlier. This is the in real life landscape of what they witnessed. So you've got the peak shown on the left-hand side with the arrow and that frosted peak in the elevation picture on the left. And then you the volcano that once was there is no longer there because it obviously erupted and wrapped up the boat. Now, as the ark was coming, or the ark was coming to rest, it was leaving these dredge stones, and I have more pictures coming of the dredge stones. But as the ark was traveling, you'll see the red arrows, A, B, C, D. These were different locations where these dredge stones were left. There's approximately 20 to 30 of them, 6 to 8 feet in height. Excuse me. And again, a bigger picture of the volcano itself erupting and the path of travel for the ark as it came to rest. And this is another picture of how the dredge stones would have worked. Now, again, this isn't a boat per se that would have had to journey somewhere. This is a structure that was constructed. The waters came in, and all that structure needed to do was maintain its level on top of that water, and make sure that it was counterbalanced with these dredge stones that were hung from its wouldn't be ballast, but from the hull itself to keep it upright. And again, another picture of these dredge stones with a perfect hole drilled in the top where the ropes would have been slung through. More evidence of the dredge stones. Just carvings, pictures of the carvings. Drawings of carvings that were left. Representation, again, Noah, his wife, 3 sons, and his 3 daughters-in-law. Another picture of the dredge stone. Genesis 4:22, and Zillah, she also bare Tabal Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, and the sister of Tabal Cain was Naamah. Now, this was the rivet, actually, that Demonstryde was referring to in his presentation as well. It was sent off for analysis. They did conclude it had aluminum, titanium, iron, and manganese in it. It's a question of where to come from, really. If Ron Wyatt threw it there by accident, found it somewhere, that's on him. If this is actually as per scripture, as per the scripture the verse I just read, then this is just another proof. So this is my cherry on top. I was absolutely blessed to find this. I did not find this in any of the other presentations that I had the pleasure of putting together. I can honestly say, everybody to the panel, I did not find this before. This is so. I take a big breath and explain this. At the site, there was a structure that was found apparently to be Noah's house, where he set up. And there was his altar off in the distance, and basically the site of Noah's house. Now, Noah's wife passed away. They did find her burial site. This was bones that Ron was able to take away. He did not take anything else away from it, but he took these bones away. Again, friends, he had them checked. These came back as human bones. Again, guys, like, it's not a question of I don't believe it, right? What I'm gonna say is, they say he checked it. They say it's human bones. And if this is in fact human bones, guys, this is a very large human being that we're looking at, because you see it, like your fingers are made of 3 bones, and there they are. So thanks for being here, friends. Always appreciate you as always. I withdraw. Love you.
So how do you guys want to do this? You guys want to attack his, or you want to get open exchange? It'll probably all come up anyway.
Well, I think some of the stuff that I want to attack, we could actually talk about with the video clips from one of the almost 2 hour long video. Like, there's plenty of spots in there. But there are a couple off the top. So let's go to the first one. The ark was said to be how big in the Bible?
Length 515 feet.
And that converts to what? Okay. And was that what Ron Wyatt found?
Yeah, the site. It's the site that you showed.
Oh, no, you did the conversion already, because originally, like we were saying, he was using the Egyptian cubit.
So yeah, through time, they've been looking for a Hebrew-based measurement, which would have been 450 feet. But this, in fact, was vetted as 515 feet.
Right. For me, though,
Can
that's the first moving of the goalpost, because it doesn't match what Scripture says. Like, we've already had to move the goalpost and accept this.
Wait. Who originally moved the goalpost?
The Scripture doesn't say it uses the Egyptian cubit.
Moses was raised by Egyptians, was he not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where
I'm
did the
just saying,
Hebrews come into play?
No, I get that. I'm just thinking, if that's the case, it should have been written down in the Scripture. Like, if we're gonna go by Scripture for measurements.
Look. That's one thing where I can honestly say that it's a dimension that's given, right? And if the perversion came that, hey, we're gonna look for the Hebrewic cubit, that's on you, right? For me, I can look at it and be like, hey, this is 515 feet. Okay, this is a house that matches a dimension potentially that we're looking at. Let's investigate further. Let's not throw away the baby with the bathwater. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We can go to the exposed wood support. Oh, you know what? There's actually a clip for that, where they showing the support structure, the support planks on the outside, the upright ones. How they scrape away they're really careful to only scrape away a slight layer of dirt, or
it does a
what
surface
they're calling
scrape.
matrix. Yeah.
Yep.
And then showing it a couple weeks later how it deteriorates, but that's not actually how that would happen if the wood is actually petrified.
Okay.
Like, I guess you could say, like, over time, you do have what they talk about in the video, the micro fracturing from water freezing over time. But that takes a long time. And when they show the damage that happened, it was literally like days or a week or something.
So there is phases to this. You saw the original site when they discovered it in the early 1900s, right?
The flyover, the black and white
Yeah,
photo.
like the captain.
Yeah.
Right. So there was that was the original site. Perfect. I believe Ron Wyatt went out in his first discovery in the 80s, I think it was when he first found it. And then an earthquake took place and opened it up almost. And there's a great picture of like it literally opened up almost like the ribs of somebody if they were lying down to just show the ribs of the hull itself. Now, with respects to him, I know he took the shovel, he flipped it over, and he just he scraped on the outside of it. Again, like, what's your point with that? Respectfully, of course.
That if it were actually petrified wood being exposed, it wouldn't just crumble away and be, wrecked by the elements because it's petrified. It's rock.
Okay, so petrified wood, fossilized wood, again, from a standpoint of if this thing was in fact gift wrapped, as I keep saying, in lava, right, which allowed it to was preserved over time. Because again, we're talking an original, like they call it a crash land date of like 2350 BC, right? So we're talking 4,500 years later. I don't exactly know or what to expect when it comes to how something would interact with that, right? But again, it's the like to me, this is the type of a question that's like, okay, are we looking for a Hebrew cubit or an Egyptian cubit, right? I still say like, what's the point? Because again, there's more to it than just this. What else?
Okay, so we could talk about the anchor stones. It seemed to me like the explanation for them being, hold on, what did they call them?
Dredge stones.
Well, they called them, they're like, oh, they tried to play it off that these aren't the dredge stones, and they tried to say that they were Armenian cult stones, right?
Who said that?
The people, well, it was the people in one of Ron Wyatt's documentaries.
Okay.
And they came along and did all the inscriptions on it, and I mean, it would explain it also because they say that they use the holes to align with stars. So, I mean, there is an explanation for why those types of stones would be there. But when I was thinking about it, the explanation is the Ark landed and settled in the mud, right? At the top of the mountain the first time. And then it was the lava flow that came down and pushed it down the mountain and pushed it into that wedge of rock that's sticking through the middle of it. Why wouldn't the dredge stones all be completely submerged like the Ark was when it dropped them off into the very soft mud at the bottom as it was coming in? Like, why are they all...
Water recedes, right? And as the water was receding, imagine you have a structure that's sitting on top of water, right? And let's just say that that structure itself is moving with the flow of the water. As it's moving with the flow of the water, it's getting closer and closer to the ground that the water's sitting in, so to speak, right? Or sitting on within. So as that structure comes down, it's going to start, like, those dredge stones are going to start to clip, and they're going to have to start cutting the ropes of those dredge stones and start dropping them so that it doesn't tip the structure, right? Because if they cut all the dredge stones at once, the whole thing would have gone to shit. They would have lost everything. But they had to basically balance the dredge stones as this thing was, because the water levels were receding and it had to come down to a stationary level, soft landing, I guess you'd say, right?
Right. So I actually have the video ready. If you want, we can go through that. Because I have, like, I don't know what we haven't talked about yet. They got attacked and robbed a couple times while they were out there too. People literally got killed while they were out there. It's kind of interesting story to hear.
Yeah, there's like, so Noah's wife's original burial site. She apparently had like a big golden I don't say not a chastity belt, but a big belt, like a belly belt, you'd call it, or something. Jewels, gold, all kinds of stuff. Obviously, got robbed. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about Turkey, right? Like, it's not exactly a nice place, but
yeah, it is.
I got something to say whenever there's a chance.
Yeah, go ahead before we start.
All right, so I was watching this video called The Great Pyramid K, and it talks about, I don't know what y'all base the Egyptian meter or finger or hand or palm or leg off of, but from what this thing says is they didn't use the hand of the actual ruler because each ruler would be too proud and most likely would change it. So they looked for something and they ended up with water. Like a single drop of water ends up measuring 1 centimeter. 10 of them measure into a royal hand. 10 royal hands equals either a royal arm or leg, depending on the context you're reading, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it would change the actual overall measurements or whatever. I sent you a message privately, QE, but I don't know, I'm just curious about this because like it's it probably wouldn't change much, but you can extrapolate pi, you can extrapolate where like the inch out of this little system. It's pretty crazy. Basically the
yeah.
imperial
So,
system out.
well, this is all based on the Vitruvian Man. The dimension of the perfect man, or whatever they say, like it. But it's perfect
Okay,
geometry, right?
I don't know.
No, and I literally just read like the first 2-3 lines because I don't want to take away from the chat. But I read your DM, and yeah, man, that's the Vitruvian Man is like perfect geometry, apparently.
I need to look more into that because I know about it, but I've never looked into it. Anyways, y'all
Yeah.
go on with y'all's thing.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate it. But yeah,
Here's,
Demonstryde, if you have video, cool. I'm just gonna go to my phone. I just wasn't sure if we're disengaging with the spoken word aspect of it or what.
Well, I mean, we can play these clips. They're probably only like a couple seconds at a time, and we can jump around to wherever you want in the video as well.
Cool.
This is the anchor stones.
Give me a sec. Yeah.
So I wanted to point out in that clip how Ron hadn't even considered that there might have been dredge stones in place before. I'm not sure which trip this was. This might have been the second trip that he was out there, or maybe it was the first one. This is the cab drivers that were showing him around. So I don't know. That to me is another moving of a goalpost, or just drawing another ring around the target or the dart, essentially. He's there. He's essentially like, what do you call it? Fishing for evidence, but kind of pointing at things and saying, well, that could do it, that could do it, but never really pointing to it actually being it.
Right.
The next,
That's what you're saying. And that's and see, Demonstryde for me, that's what and for me, instead of directly pointing at it, it's you kind of just impolitely point at it, if that makes sense.
Never. Well, he made several trips there, and he pointed at the boat-shaped object several times, and they even put some sort of seismograph on it and found the timbers inside, and did all sorts of tests. So they confirmed it about 100 times, actually. That's why they built a visitor center there.
with Kiwi inside.
Dude.
Well, the difference is Ron Wyatt went there about 100 times, and if you haven't gone there, you can't make a claim for the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Him.
And what's crazy is
spent all his own money.
Discovered Media is the is the YouTube channel that's out there now, and they're renovating the visitation center. It's been commissioned as a site and everything, so it's on the way, man. And what's cool is Mount Sinai with the rock and the rock that Noah hit and split and water came out. That's actually potentially in the way of the construction of this. I keep talking about the line in Saudi Arabia that's being built.
Oh,
This
that
rock,
that
the
like
rock that,
futuristic like city thing they're making.
yeah, the two walls, the two
Yeah, that thing's
skyscrapers,
fucking
100,
crazy.
100 miles in length, 170 kilometers in length, two linear walls. Sure enough, the rock might be in the way of transportation lines that they might be putting in. That's nuts. Anyways,
Here's the next clip of them getting
While
attacked.
packing, they heard the clamor of men coming up the steps, banging on the walls and shouting. When Ron looked down the stairs and saw them, he recognized some as men they had encountered over the last 3 days, and he realized they planned to rob them. The region is so isolated that he knew they were in trouble if they didn't escape quickly. Barricading the door and tying sheets together, they climbed out their window onto a roof where they re-entered the hotel through its kitchen and escaped. But in the commotion, they lost most of their film and luggage.
Except for that video footage, apparently, and them running away. No, I'm just joking. It's obviously reenactment. There are counter videos to Ron Wyatt's claims. There was one of the guys that supposedly was going to go out with him to the other ark, the Covenant one, where he's going to be filming. And there are counterclaims for people that have been out there. I just like to put that forth. I mean, I haven't been myself, but there are people who have pointed to it maybe not being as above board as possible.
have you seen the floor plans that they've been able to pull from the scans?
Yeah, did they have those in the one that I sent you? Because I don't think I
Yeah,
saw.
yeah.
There was this really complex one that they got more recently. I think it was like 2015 they did scans.
The main, there's a floor plan showing the main gangway, rooms, and yeah, it's all through the scans that they were able to pull up the site. The soil samples are interesting too. Cat hair, I think animal dung, along with an antler, piece of an antler were found. And again, just based off a soil sample that was pulled out.
Yeah.
What's the alternative, Kiwi? All the dogs in the world came from no dogs? Because I think all the dogs coming from 2 dogs makes a lot more sense.
Well, they probably came from wolves.
Well, here's the thing, guys, and I appreciate you for
Wolves are
asking that,
dogs,
Expo.
yeah. They're all the same.
Wolves are dogs. Foxes are
Hold on.
dogs. Actually, dogs come from foxes.
Hold on, guys, before we start the feeding frenzy, please give me a quick second because I want to put some quick numbers to this before I digress. I took the Egyptian numbers that were presented, right? And I took everything. Number one, the height of a young giraffe is 14 feet. One level of the ark would have been 15 feet times 3 gives you the overall height that was given in the Bible. The overall mathematics works out to be 122,000 square feet of floating space that he would have had to work with, including a main gangway up the middle. Up the middle! Now, just wanted to tell you that 122,000 square feet is huge. That's a small warehouse to work with. So, thanks. I'll withdraw.
Yeah, there's more than enough room for sure, especially since 2 of the same kind can give you all the breeds. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, these Russian guys, like back in the Soviet Union, they basically took a couple foxes and over the course of 4 generations bred them into dogs. So foxes are essentially dogs. There was no
No,
dog.
they're not there yet. They've started to been domesticated, but they're not there yet.
No, they
They're
literally
much friendlier to humans, but like they're not
they
fully
literally did this
domesticated yet.
before. They literally did this already. Like it's already been done before I was born.
Yeah, I know. It's
want to do like.
Yeah, that'd be really appreciated, man. Demonstryde, go ahead, my guy.
Oh well,
Isn't
I actually still had a couple things left.
Oh snap! Okay.
One of the problems that I had with the testing they did on the petrified wood was they said they had carbon this and that, but they didn't. He never actually showed receipts of what the data was that came back, and they never even gave a hardness scale. When you're testing for petrified wood, I looked into this, like how do you actually know what kind of petrified wood you have, and the guys explaining that one of the biggest things is you need to test for hardness, and that isn't given in any of the statistics or data he has for his petrified wood.
No, hardness not given.
Yeah, because there's a hardness tester. It's a tool that you use, and you can tell exactly if something is actually petrified or if it just appears to be petrified.
Well,
Because I can show you a bunch of rocks that look like petrified wood, but actually aren't petrified wood.
Right. The contrary, the evidence that goes contrary to that is, I think contrary would be it, is the laminated deck boards, right? That show this hardened, sticky appearance. When I say sticky, it can't be sticky after all these years, but again, these laminated veneer lumber that appear to have this this goopy, at one point in time would have been goopy substance on it, which would have been this pitch, right? Tar extracted from trees and mud and things of that nature mixed together to make this thing waterproof and able to traverse the seas. So I don't know about that specific portion of it, but again, when you start looking at all the little bitty small things, it starts to add up to this giant pile of a big giant pile of 515 feet of awesomeness.
Right.
Sorry.
That's right. Francis, thanks, Francis Gary Powers.
I don't even know how else to say it, but they keep. Anyways, I'll start talking before I sound like an idiot. Too late. Sorry, Demonstryde, go on, man.
Actually gone.
All right, so I was going to point to, here's the actual side timbers we've been talking about.
Yep, that's it.
But the eastern side contained a section which appeared to still contain some of the petrified, although severely fragmented rib timbers still in place. In October of 1990, Ron and Richard Reeves went to the Ark and took shovels whose blades they bent and sharpened like giant razors. Scraping just a few inches of matrix from the side, they hoped that the petrified ribs would be able to be seen. These ribs were fragmented due to weathering since they were so near the surface, but due to their slant, the soil around them had held them in place. Very carefully, assisted by DeLavar, who had accompanied Ron since March of 1985.
Does that look like petrified wood to anybody else?
As his taxi driver began to scrape.
Do you have any other boats you want to compare it to?
Extremely careful to remove only a very
Well, it's
few
petrified
inches.
wood.
Tell you what we plan
Even if
to
it's
do
not
here is
petrified,
to shave
the Ark.
the rib timber part of this section of the hull, and of course,
What if it's not as old as
the
they say?
texture between the rib timbers and the
You can't date it
material
anyway.
that has covered the boat are different in color and
You're right.
of course,
I don't trust
in
dating
density and
methods.
that sort of thing, and so we
Oh, dude, it's crazy.
are going to be able to show.
Well, he found a boat-shaped object. If you know somebody has a replacement, then you can have an argument.
So, okay, here's my question at this point to Demonstryde. If it's what do you propose it to be?
Okay, so it's possibly a syncline or a clay upswelling. Those are
Clay upswelling.
Yeah, just
with animal dung, antler, cat hair, and other interesting
And
little
timber and
pieces of stuff
wood
found.
beams inside of it. Yeah, beams and timbers inside.
Well, the alleged wood timber beams, because like I said, they weren't tested for hardness. We don't actually have the data from it. We just have a little infographic that says that that's actually what it was. So I don't actually know. And I dare say you don't know either.
Well, the difference is he went there on foot with his family, you know, so anybody who challenges him is going to have to go there also to make a claim. Man, he lugged around a 40-pound
I don't know
camera
about
too.
So here's a thing for petrified wood, if anyone is interested in learning how it's done. It's like all nerd shit about it. God damn it, where'd it go? Ahead.
Okay, so how does petrified wood form versus what would have been formed at this site?
It forms the same way that they explain that it does. It just there's no evidence that that's actually what happened there. So he's not the only archaeologist to have gone there and studied it. Okay, there are like many others. Let me pull this up too. This is the picture of the faces, not the drawing above the rock, but this is the actual rock that they were looking at. Those are pictures of 8 faces. One of those actually looks like a swastika when I'm looking at it, an S and a T. I'm not seeing anybody's faces on this rock right here. All right, but I think we've gotten to the end of our evidences. You want me to go first since I had the first word and you can have the last word?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, guys. Well, this has been really, really fun. I'd like to thank my host, 24/7 Cosmology Tartaria. I'd like to thank Kiwi for his beautiful presentation. He's a really, really nice guy. Like, honestly, and one of the best people I think I've debated yet.
Where's the political smear campaign?
Was this a debate?
Oh, this is kind of gay. You need to be a little more mean.
Yeah, there was a debate about
Well,
whether or
thank you
not
for being
there's
so
an
nice.
actual physical Noah's Ark.
I liked him in Tarzan mode, man.
Only if I get the last word.
Yeah, right. You can't do it if you can't. Yeah, I get that. You can only do it if it's last. You can't throw that in their face and then wait for them to insult you. Yeah, no, it has to be the last word. That's funny.
We're all
You
smearing
screwed it
you
all
enough,
up,
no
Kiwi.
worries.
You screwed it all up. You outplayed him, dude.
Guys, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you as always. Noah's Ark, as you know, is very near and dear to my heart. This was the one finding which made the enclosed system truth for me. It gave the tip of the hat to the second law of thermodynamics, being entropy, have to enclose mediums. But again, Noah's Ark and all those little small treasures that you find within this 515-foot long pile of dirt is what I'm truly appreciative for. I realized that, you know, you can investigate each of those slits and put a band-aid on each of those slits. But at this point in time, I think we're looking at death by 1,001 slits because of the mountain of evidence that sits upon this 515-foot long mountain of dirt. Thank you so much for being here. Demonstryde, thank you for the presentation. And 24/7 Tartaria, always a pleasure, friends. Be well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Super gay.
Good on you, Kiwi. I saw you a couple weeks ago talking about Ron Wyatt. He certainly has done things that no one else has. That's for sure.
Appreciate it, XO. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Anyone got any questions?
Well, I do have a question. Have you guys read the Enuma or do you know the analogy to the Noah's Ark flood story that was written um, by the Sumerians on clay tablets?
The story of Gilgamesh?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. I've heard they're very similar.
They have similar the whole it has very many biblical analogies even, but you know, there's a serpent, there's a fruit that gives you everlasting life. The serpent eats it. Regardless, like there are very many common themes, but one of the the themes that was interesting is in their story of the ark. It's not Noah doesn't send out doves, and the dove doesn't come back with a branch, but instead he sends out a sparrow, which doesn't come back, or which comes back to the boat. He sends out a dove, which comes back to the boat, and then they send out a raven, which never comes back, and that's how they knew that it landed somewhere, and that there was landfall. And so, how do you process these two different stories? That's my first question, I guess. To maybe Kiwi?
I stick to the KJV version of the Bible. It's the most consistent that I found. Thank you.
Does that story, being older than the KJV and being so similar, have any sway on, like, is there any truth to that story?
The Bible mentions several other texts that have the same stories, such as Joshua, the book of Jasher, understanding the sun and moon stop. So there are several other texts that predate the Bible that have the same stories. It's just not inspired on Mount Sinai. So the history was already there. For example, the oldest religion existed, way before the Bible existed, right? Oldest religion being, telling Eve that she'll be a god if she eats the fruit.
That's not the oldest religion.
Okay, hold on.
You'd
Before
have
we
that's a
hold on,
that's a religious claim. That is a religious claim. Go ahead.
Exo, respectfully, before we get off in that, because I know how this individual, like, I don't want to get off into the weeds about that type of stuff. I just would like to outline that from my readings and findings, there's only one book of Enoch. Enoch was the man who came before the man who built the ark. Ultimately, that was his grandfather, generations removed, of course, grandson. But there was only one book of Enoch, one version that we know of, 3 books.
The book of Enoch was written after the Tanakh, though. Book of Enoch is not that old. Book that would be written after the Tanakh, in between the New Testament and also known as pseudepigrapha.
Any other questions for Demonstryde, Rye? Or we're done?
If anybody has an example of evolution, that would be the counterpart to the biblical truth. That would be a great help to the conversation.
Well, there's like you can bring up any other like religious text though. It's not just like secular evolutionary thought. It's just like others, right? Because you claimed that there's there's the oldest religion, right? But that's like a claim. You don't have to necessarily believe in like evolution or the Big Bang to like not think that Christianity is true.
I don't know what Christianity is. I was just talking about the fact that 90% of the people that are going to go up against the story of Noah are going to have the evolution religion as their take. So if anybody had a claim for evolution,
That just sounds like rhetoric, man.
Yeah, if you had a claim, we'd know it by now. But obviously, you're already scared of your own claim.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that what I mentioned was not going up against the story of Noah. In fact, I'm suggesting that it's an older story, and that the timeline potentially is, from the Bible is incorrect.
Well, that would be a religious claim,
Well,
dude, you're just like pushing out rhetoric. Like he's not.
No, you are pushing out rhetoric. You're just scared, and now you keep using the word rhetoric because you have nothing to offer. Yeah, you live on the internet. That's fine. Yeah, that's the difference. When I talk, they get upset and they start pissing their pants. You notice that, Shane? That's
Dude,
the difference.
pee in my mouth.
Yep, that's exact. There you go. There's the seizure. Yeah, exactly. Why am I? Yeah, you're having seizures and someone is continuously insulting me when I'm trying to push the conversation ahead.
Yeah,
I'm not the one insulting people. If
I
there's
didn't say I
effeminate,
didn't insult
there's
anyone, dude.
yeah, you're pushing rhetoric. You're pushing rhetoric. So it's okay. So it's okay to just attack people, right? You're attacking me because I'm asking for a claim for evolution, which is the
It's okay to
antithesis of the
disagree
biblical
with you,
truth.
yes.
Well,
Is
like,
it okay to
what
attack
are the
me?
antithesis
When
of
did that?
like the
So
biblical
rookie's
view
having
be
so
like?
so three do nothing retards are having a seizure, and I'm not
Oh,
allowed
you're
to
the one
defend
freaking
myself.
out, dude.
You're the one making accusations. You're saying you're
I
pushing
didn't.
rhetoric. Everyone's allowed to talk except for me. The same old story, Shane. If I talk, it's rhetoric. If you talk,
It
it
was
must
just a
be true.
response, man. Like, what are
I
you
know
talking
it's just
You're
a
a
perverted
pervert
reaction.
Satanist.
Exactly, just more pervert
You're a
reactions.
pervert
Exactly.
Satanist, dude.
More do nothing. Let's see. I have about 3 hours of material of
Yeah, this
footage I've
guy
taken.
hates
What
God.
do you have? Yep,
So
more
I'm
hatred.
really super appreciative of the fact that we came here to discuss Noah's Ark, and you guys
Yeah.
are now arguing about the Lord's Word, which we're not supposed to be arguing about. Again, if you have a negative opinion, right, I understand asking questions to further your understanding of the event, but if you're trying to nut on it, okay, this conversation is not for you. So, I mean, I am withdrawing from it because I really have nothing else to add to it. But I'm just saying, guys, try to keep the conversation respectful when it comes to the topic. That's all. Thank
Well, I was
you.
gonna say it's
are
me
we
and
still
King's
on the?
Clown's party. Stop fighting.
Well, I think that'll wrap it up. I think you guys did
Like,
great. I think you
I
could have
wanna
Well, I
been
have
say,
meaner.
several videos showing that there's evidence of Noah's flood over here in the
Boys,
Americas that I've
boys,
taken
boys.
myself. I'm just gonna say that I have my own evidence, but let's see what you guys have. Take your time.
well, like,
I have a tape measure if you guys want to measure something.
Well, no, that question is for Demonstryde as well, right? In the Epic of Gilgamesh, which on a certain timeline took place thousands of years before the Bible was written, and it had the same analogies of the ark, the same fact of the flood, and but it was written from a different civilization. So
Mhm.
how do you process that yourself? And is there a possibility that there was actually an ark, there was actually a flood, and there was a character of Noah, regardless of what language his name is under?
So there's like many different instances of flood stories, and a lot of them have a Noah character. Though, if you want to say specifically the one of Gilgamesh, like each one of these flood events, I'm gonna lean to it was most likely a local flood event, and you might have had some crazy dude who like always had you know his boat off the land or whatever, or maybe he just had a boat off the land, or he just like his house floated away, and it was called the Ark, and his whole family and his animals were able to survive. Like there's many possibilities as to why that story was written down, and there's like explainable ones, I guess. Like
Yeah, but drawing it to like a local flood event is not something that is encapsulated throughout all of human culture, right?
well, imagine you're an early civilization where you don't have a lot of people. You might not even know that there's other tribes. Like you've grown up only seeing your tribe. And now a flood happens and your entire world is destroyed. Like how big do you actually think your world is at that point? Probably not very big.
most early civilizations were around rivers where there was easy to gain water, man.
And very likely to be flooded.
Something I want to actually mention, EXO mentioned formations. Sedona, the layers that are visible in Sedona are interesting because when you look at how they were formed, I was taking a piece and think of the presence of water and the sudden withdrawal of water, how that would end up with like almost a stacking level of land, the way that Sedona was formed.
I do think by saying a local flood event, or by saying that civilizations were around rivers and potentially, the rivers are able to flood, is discounting like a lot about human history, and it's a
Why?
very like small and narrow view of what we've been told. For example, everybody's heard of Atlantis, haven't they? So
Yeah, hold on.
story,
Let me just be the contrarian to your point.
well,
You're discounting the power of God.
let me finish my point real quick. My point is just it's an objective statement. The reason why we know about the story of Atlantis is because it was told to us by Plato, right? And Plato specifically, when in his depiction of the story, he says the only reason he knows about it is because his grandfather or great grandfather was told this story by an ancient Egyptian priest. Okay, that's why he's telling the story. That was who told it to him, and that's where the information came from. Now, in that story of Atlantis, they talk about a war, they talk about giants, they talk about an unprovoked war that was waged on the people of their land, which he says was now, which is essentially Greece. But he says that in this war, your people, humans, were victorious essentially. But before there was any victory, great earthquakes went up all over the world, and a huge flood destroyed both sides. So now you look at the ancient Egyptian pyramids, you look at the Sphinx, you look at all these artifacts that you can objectively see, and these stories that are being told, and our prehistory, right? Which apparently 5,000 BC, we kind of came from nowhere, right? We formed civilization, but previous to that, there may have been another civilization, and all of these stories depict the ending of that civilization, do they not? Now, rivers flooding are a very usual thing, but cataclysmic events are something that I don't think you're willing to consider, because you're arguing with somebody who has a different worldview, who's saying, the Earth is 6,000 years old and everything must fit into this particular timeline. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I do agree that there was a flood. There probably was a Noah type character, right? And the survival of the human race was, consolidated at that point to various small groups of human beings.
Was there a question?
Yeah, the question is, do you entertain anything like that, or do
Yes.
you just say that there was no flood, there is no Noah,
No.
all that kind of stuff?
No. I question everything. I'm open to I'm open to anything. It's very possible that there was water underneath that's stored, and there's. See, I think even if you were to, because we talked about this in the Weisskopf debate, even if you melted all the caps, all the visible water we have, it still wouldn't cover all the land. It would just, it would move the shorelines I think it was 2 miles. It's a lot of land, but it's not, the end of everything. It'd kill a hell of a lot of people that were on the coastlines. There might have been an event, let's say in the Ice Age, you might have had civilizations that died due to the Ice Age warming up, and that's what they called Atlantis. Who fucking knows?
Well, Atlantis was specifically just like something that Plato literally just made up.
Right,
Not
but
Plato, or was it Plato or Aristotle?
even if his grandfather
Plato.
told him it, what makes that believable? Why would I believe that? It's like you're adding extra people to it, and then his grandfather heard it from an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. Like, what the fuck? Like, even more. It's like Occam's razor, man. Like, that's too many steps. It's